In a 10, scrap Bonnie. Ah, Bonnie, the scariest animatronic to some, even Scott Cawthon, who would have nightmares about you. But this is probably why he didn't make you a scrap animatronic, yet here we are with the fan base once again, showcasing that their only desire is to watch the world burn and laugh while we all go up in flames, but then miraculously not die somehow, only for it to be explained years later in a random book that a load of hardcore game purists claim isn't canon. However, Scrap Bonnie is definitely worthy of making this list because, like, look at it. I love rabbits, they're freaking adorable, but zombie rabbits always creeped me out for some reason, and this reminds me of a zombie rabbit. The exposed endoskeleton, the random weird claw-like thing they got going on. It's like if Scrap Baby was reassembling herself and then Elizabeth was like, no, I want to possess Bonnie. And then she remade herself as Bonnie. Honestly, I'm surprised Scott didn't pull something like that at this point. With like this just the simple explanation of Elizabeth liked Bonnie, and then that's it. That's the only thing we get. Damn, maybe that's the scariest thing of all. In at 9, scrap Nightmare Bonnie. What's that? 2 Bonnie animatronics in a row on a list not about Bonnie? Yes! But mostly because I was scrolling through Google Images and these two caught my eye first. Scrap Nightmare Bonnie is scary for all the reasons I listed above, and then you just add Nightmare to it. Although I guess that doesn't really make for a compelling number, and I should talk about it more. The concept of the nightmare animatronics is certainly freaky, but the fact that they aren't real kind of like soothes me, you know? Like, sure, none of these animatronics are real, but even in their universe, the nightmare animatronics aren't real and can't really hurt you. But with the implication of the scrapped nature of this version, it seems to suggest against that idea, and I think that makes it freakier. But also the potential that the arm at the end of that one Security Breach trailer that was never referenced again, by the way, Steel Wool, looks like Nightmare Freddy's arm, and it only adds to the idea that they're not going to be fake for very long. Like, they're going to be real animatronics very soon, and I don't like that. If that ends up being the thing, if they make the Nightmare animatronics actual animatronics in Security Breach, this channel is done with FNAF. Straight up. And it ain't Scrap Baby Endo. Scrap Baby is already the freakiest of all the scrap animatronics, or at least the canon scrap animatronics, but never did I think about what her endoskeleton would look like, because let's be honest, that's kind of freaky. I mean, her name is literally Baby. I don't want to talk about her endoskeleton, that'll put me on like some kind of watch list. However, this goddamn Scrap Baby Endo concept is horrifying. Why does it have boobs? It's an endoskeleton! You don't actually have to give it boobs! Why did Baby even reassemble herself? In that way is my question. Is it because she like needs to be able to pass as a human like she does in the Fourth Closet novel? Like seriously, this has been something that has always bugged me because like why? Why did Scrap Baby reassemble themselves with a chest? And then like why are people including this as a part of her endoskeleton? This hurts me on like a deep level. I don't want to think about it anymore. Let's move on. And at 7, scrap Glitch Trap. You can fight me all you want about my opinions on Springtrap and the fact that he's not an animatronic because he's just a dude in the suit. But there's no way you can fight me on the fact that Glitch Trap isn't an animatronic. Firstly, he's just game code with no real world equivalent aside from William Afton. Secondly, he's literally just a suit. You can tell by the fabric. The different design to the Bonnie we know and the stitching around his joints and, you know, it's a suit. But this version of Glitch Trap, known as Scrap Glitch Trap, is designed to be an animatronic, therefore it counts for this list. This thing is fucking horrifying. I've always had a soft spot for Glitch Trap, okay? I hate this thing because, like, you know, it gives me creepy bear vibes, if you know what I mean. You know, if you look at old memes, you'll know. It's an old meme, but it checks out. It's a specific bear that may have candy in his white windowless van. Anyway, I hate this kind of thing. And the way that Glitch Trap just like stands there and waves and then slowly gets closer to you, who's playing a child in the game, doesn't sit right with me. Hence why I avoid picking up tapes, because I don't like him. Now, with all that said, this version is still worse. The actual scrap appearance, along with like the desaturation of the costume and the exposed endoskeleton and all the wires, it's too much for me. I can't do it. I'm done. And it's 6, Scrap Puppet. I don't know why, but like every version of the puppet intended to be scary gives me the heebie-jeebies. Like the Reaper puppet, which I talk about in multiple FNAF videos, and is honestly the epitome of horrifying for me, is the Reaper puppet. And then there's like the Havoc puppet of the Dramidibus series, and now we have Scrap Puppet. This was only a concept and fan art, but it doesn't actually appear in any of the games, but it's still creepy, okay? It doesn't have to appear in a game. This is fan animatronics for a reason. Doesn't appear in game, and I don't think that there's a mod for it either if you watch that video. Although that is a good idea. You should make a mod for this. There should just be a FNAF game that's all puppets. Anyway, while some people may not be able to make a game for their creations, you can make a mod, or you can like make a model for it in Source Filmmaker, and then let people use it for mods. Anyways, this particular image that I found just looks like the beginning of a Scrap Puppet jump scare, as if you were salvaging them in FNAF 6. And obviously it's not actually in the game because the puppet was captured by Lefty, but still, this just, it puts me on edge. And then it has like all like the little tentacle things coming off of it and like a creepy smile. Like I don't know, it puts me on edge, or it's edging me because of those tentacles. Is that too far? I mean, Food Wars said it, so like, can I make the joke? Halfway through into number 5, Scrap Funtime Freddy. Funtime Freddy is a particularly interesting animatronic, looking like he just came back from filming a video with James Charles. Does he even make videos anymore? I don't know, nor do I really care. Funtime Freddy is creepy simply because he's like the most put together version of Freddy there is, ignoring Toy Freddy. Especially with the recent revelation, thanks to the Faz Facts from FNAF AR, that revealed that the Funtime animatronics, despite being introduced in the 5th game, were among some of the first animatronics that Afton built, which I think was meant to serve as a way to show that he always had murderous intentions, but still. Take the creep factor you get from Funtime Freddy, then add on to it the scrap adjective, and boom, you got yourself some good nightmare fuel. But like, not like this would be in your nightmares, like rather I think it would just provoke some nightmares, but it is certainly not for the faint of heart. In at 4, Nightmare Scrap Baby. Really? You just had to take probably the freakiest bitch of the bunch and turn her into a Nightmare Scrap version. What the living hell, man. Okay, I'll admit that this should be higher on the list, so actually, you know what, I'll move it. Okay, there we go, it's at number 4 now. Like, it was originally at number 8, but then I switched it with Scrap Baby's endo specifically so that I could say that I already said that Scrap Baby is the scariest of the Scrap animatronics. Yes, this was a bit. And turning them into a nightmare version that wants to eat my soul is too much, okay? Amanda and I are the only ones who are supposed to do the whole soul eating thing. But Nightmare Scrap Baby looks like she wants to eat my firstborn child. Like, do you understand how absolutely terrifying this thing is? Some of them even look like Pennywise after they're old and gray and been doing too much no snow. Pennywise would be scared of Nightmare Scrap Baby. Afton would disown Elizabeth as his daughter for this. This is literally the stuff of nightmares, which I guess was the point. So, good job, guys. You got me to freak. Congratulations. Getting close to the end, in at number 3, Scrap Orville. I found this Scrap Orville through a mod that replaced Orville, I'm assuming, with the Scrap Orville version. Orville Elephant isn't a particularly scary character, and that remains the same for the rest of the mediocre melodies. However, this Scrap Orville mod, made using a model by DeviantArt user Holupaxum, based on a design of Reddit user u/fandomtrash198787, is honestly terrifying. Scrapping animatronics always makes them scarier, and with the lore implications that the original Orville gave with his death lines in Ultimate Custom Night, I can only imagine what a Scrap Orville will add, and I've stated it time and time again, the lore is the scariest thing in the series to me. And the sheer lore implications of not only a Scrap Orville, but all these fan-made scrap animatronics is actually haunting how terrifying it is. If you've ever tried to explain anything in this series in at least somewhat of a reasonable way and not a whole Sans' phone guy kind of way, you'll understand my struggle and you'll relate to me on this. But ultimately, in at number 2, Scrap Trap Endo. Scrap Trap is already a creepy animatronic, somehow changing from a small, realistically sized head in Springtrap to a giant, weird alien head in FNAF 6. Scrap Trap is definitely one of the most interesting Afton looks. It looks like he's going to Coachella and trying on a load of outfits. However, this man needs to keep as much clothing on as possible because this version of Scrap Trap's endoskeleton, or what it would look like, is absolutely horrific. And yes, that's what I meant by clothes, not because Afton is a walking mass of exposed muscle and absolutely unsightly in the most horrendous ways. No, it's because his endoskeleton for the Scrap Trap animatronic is freaky. Like, why does his head have to be that shape? It's an animatronic, not a freaking pop figure. Scrap Trap needs a pop figure, though. I will definitely buy that. So, Funko, do it. Still, either way, Scrap Trap endoskeleton is literally one of my worst nightmares. And finally, in at number 1, Scrap Glamrox. With Security Breach on the horizon, releasing in actually a month as this video is going out, I believe, we still had to include the group of animatronics as scrap versions on this list. And honestly, it's pretty accurate considering how Chica in that promotional image and the recent trailer seems to be pretty scrapped already. They wouldn't really have to do much there to have that really work out. However, the versions that I've actually seen are scarily horrific in a way that makes me concerned if they'll be in the real game. I don't think these would be in the game, but based on that old theory that I had about how these characters are acting like zombies, this makes me feel like that theory is a little too right. These animatronics being made into scrap animatronics are honestly some of the weirdest custom scrap versions I've seen, and that makes them the scariest. I tried to stay away from anything newer, or I guess that I had covered in previous alternate fan version videos, but holy crap, these scrap rocks, as I want to call them, are absolutely haunting. This is what the Halloween update for this game should be. These are actually perfect, so thank you. And at 10, FNAF 2020. These Glamrock animatronics are from the FNAF 2020 series of drawings from DeviantArt user Senior Artsy, who I believe we've seen on this channel before in some other fan versions videos. However, I don't want to call out one animatronic specifically, but rather the whole collection of Glamrock versions from this 2020 set, because while yes, these animatronics will mostly be in the game, with the exception of some like Bonnie, these color palettes and designs are much more sinister than their previous versions, especially Vanny and Freddy, since giving Freddy a panda face, I don't know why, but just for some reason makes me kinda scared of him. And I think it's because the rest of his body isn't a panda, and it's just his face, so it's like he's wearing a mask and gonna rob you or something. I don't know the psychology behind it, but I think we can all agree, especially that Vanny looks like she should not be playing in a kid's game. And at 9, Glamrock Bonnie. I think the freakiest part about Glamrock Bonnie is just the fact that they're not going to be in the game. So far as I know at least, the only mention of Bonnie will be a bowling alley that we probably aren't gonna get to use, but for the most part, like with the rest of these animatronics, the designs aren't scary. Well, aside from the Minecraft model. Like, what's with people and making Minecraft animations for FNAF characters? And like FNAF, I don't understand it. I'd also like it to be noted that instead of animations, I spelt animatronics when I was writing that list initially, and I also did it again while writing this line. That's how much FNAF has taken over my life. I can't write animation anymore. So I hope you people are happy. But either way, these versions, aside from one version from a Twitter user called Manute Art, aren't really all that menacing. But the idea that people are creating additional animatronics is scary enough for me, because I don't want to deal with the additional lore that would come from that, okay? And at 8, Glamrock Foxy. Speaking of not wanting to deal with additional lore, Glamrock Foxy would also add a lot of unnecessary amount of annoyance to the game. At this point, Roxy is basically the love child of Foxy and Bonnie, and even has a name that kind of reflects on the whole like meant to be Foxy thing, since Roxy is just a combination of Rock and Foxy. Like, it's also an actual name, but I figured I'd mention that it's basically a combination of the two words, and she plays guitar, and so there's a link to Bonnie. However, the main issue with this comes from the fact that Foxy is it's scarier than Bonnie. I know all you die-hard Bonnie stans are gonna come for me, and I get that Scott had nightmares about him, but honestly, there's just no contest between these two characters. Foxy is scarier than Bonnie, and that means that his Glamrock would end up being scarier as well, especially if you take the toy animatronics as an example. The Glamrocks are very close design-wise to the toys, so keeping that in mind, the toy variant of Foxy is still scarier than Bonnie's. Case closed. And at 7, Roblox. I looked up Glamrock versions of characters, and somehow I kept getting loads of different Roblox versions of the FNAF animatronics. And this is goddamn terrifying for me. Why do you ask? Well, because it's Roblox. I don't like Roblox. The only good Roblox game is Paintball, and that's it, okay? Anytime we talk about Roblox, I feel an overwhelming sense of dread wash over me, because ever since that list about like the worst things that people did on Roblox or something along those lines, I've seen the Roblox community as horrifically toxic and just something I can't really stand. Especially with the comments on like that one time I played Roblox on the channel and everyone got mad at me for just playing paintball, but like, That environment combined with FNAF, which is already the bane of my existence at this point, and you get some pretty horrifying experiences that I don't want to deal with. And at 6, Withered Glamrock Freddy. I've said it before, withered animatronics are probably some of the weirdest and creepiest animatronics there are. I personally find Withered Bonnie way creepier than Nightmare Bonnie, probably because of the whole lack of a face thing. But with the new Glamrock animatronics on their way in a month, it was only a matter of time before someone withered them. Searching Withered Chica only really gets you pictures of like Chica from the Broken teasers and the trailer, so instead I'm going with Withered Glamrock Freddy because these are creepy as hell. Every version of Withered Glamrock Freddy makes me concerned that we're climbing into his belly to pilot him like some really energy inefficient mech suit. Like, thinking about it, that's a really bad idea. This guy not only looks scary, but also made me realize the error of Gregory's ways, which makes him even worse. When we ultimately do get crushed at the end of this game, I'm calling it now so that when it does happen I can say I called it. This is how I imagine Glamrock Freddy looking. Or, if this is post FNAF 3 and the company has been ruined, maybe this is what the animatronics look like, except they're using those sound illusion discs to make us think otherwise. Halfway through in at number 5, Glamrock Puppet. Again, every time I make a list about discussing creepy animatronics, a freaking puppet always makes it on. That's mostly because the puppet is a freaky character to begin with, and I feel like the phone guy whenever I call the puppet creepy, but it is creepy. And the Glamrock Puppet is no exception. This character wasn't originated in the Furries Rage game like I figured it would be, but instead it's just like a separate design that no matter what just looks like it wants to bring me to the back of the pizza joint to show me how the pepperoni gets put on the pizza. And no, I don't mean literally. Yes, that was an allusion to something else. And not only does it come with its own creepy ass concept art, but it also comes with Minecraft skins, because of course it does. This is one of the weirdest versions of the puppet, not taking into account Scrap Puppet, Withered Puppet, or Reaper Puppet from Final Nights 3. This is like the 4th weirdest and scariest puppet, and there's nothing really scary about it. It feels wrong to me, and the whole pepperoni thing. And at 4, Glamrock Plush. Okay, so technically these are official and licensed plushies, so they're not really fan-made, but there are other versions on Etsy that are actually fan-made, so there are some fan-made versions. And honestly, those are the ones that you should be getting, because look at these fucking things. Why are the Glamrock Security Breach plushies so funky looking? They look horrible. Like, this was actually so much of an issue that many people had with these plushies that it caused a bit of an uproar within the community when they were first revealed. Not only that, but because, you know, Funko has a history of just leaking everything for some reason, and they don't look like the other plushies that they've released before. Like, if you're gonna make real plushies, at least make them look the same as they did in the VR games, so that we can like actually really see them and hold them, because we've already seen them before. It's not that hard, guys, really. These Security Breach Glamrock plushes are some of the worst proportioned and most horrifying plushies I've seen. And I saw the one that Scott Lang gave to his daughter in Ant-Man, and the bloodthirsty minion my father gave to my sister. These are still the most horrific ones that I've seen, though, okay? If I had these, I would be scared for my life. Although, mentioning that, they are on my Amazon wish list, so if you guys want to... I'm just kidding, I don't have an Amazon wish list, I'm not a girl. Getting close to the end, and at number 3, Blacklight Glamrocks. Some of the Blacklight versions of Glamrock animatronics are absolutely horrifying. While I'm not sure if the plushie versions are official products, the fan blender versions for the characters are freaking nuts. Chica with blue skin is not only off-putting, but actually haunting. Same with a yellow Roxy. These are like if the Glamrock animatronics were Pokemon, and then like these were the shiny versions of them. So far, the only Blacklight animatronics that we know of are the ones from Help Wanted that only really appeared in the animatronic maintenance minigames in Blacklight mode, but that were never used again and that we don't really get to see. It's terrifying to think about the lore implications as well. Like if this place turns off the light at night, but then turns on like a black light or something, like how do they change color? How are they not just neon whatever their color is? Because these peeps are colorful as hell. So why not just glow your own damn colors? See, my head is starting to hurt even just thinking about these things. Just please, keep them away from me. And ultimately, in at number 2, Nightmare Glamrocks. Nightmare animatronics are designed to be the scariest versions of their respective animatronics. And that's why there are so many fan-made versions, because while elements like rugged exosuits and stomach mouths are common, you can really just head anywhere, same with scrap versions. However, these Nightmare versions are something else. Considering their original pristine appearance in the trailers and promo images, well, with the exception version of Chica, there is a stark contrast between the two versions. They seem to be just the ultimate nightmare aesthetic going on with these characters specifically. I don't know why these animatronics specifically make me think that way, because maybe it's because like Glamrock Chica is my babe, but now she's not, but like even still. Glamrock Bonnie isn't even a thing yet, but their nightmare Glamrock version is scarier than their normal nightmare version. Stay away from these, don't look them up, although you've already seen them because it's in the edit. So I'm sorry. And finally, in at number 1, scrap Glamrock animatronics. With Security Breach releasing in less than a month, we had to include a group of animatronics as scrapped versions on this list. And honestly, it's actually a good idea, considering how Chica in that promotional image seems pretty scrapped already. They really wouldn't have to do much to make that work out. However, the versions that I've actually seen are scarily horrific in a way that makes me concerned if they'll be in the real game. I don't think these would be in the game, but based on my old theory that I had about how these characters are kind of acting like zombies and like eating animatronic, or I guess not animatronic, but like other robotic parts, this look just makes me feel too right. Especially when we see in the trailer Chica getting progressively more destroyed. I feel like this might actually end up being a thing. These animatronics being made into scrap animatronics are honestly some of the freakiest custom scrap versions that I've seen. This is some freaky scrap. I tried to stay away from anything like that was like too pristine, I guess. Because like what I used to do in previous alternate fan version videos was just look up adjectives. Like if it was like scary nightmare and like fan versions, I would just look up like withered nightmare, something else nightmare. I would just add that. I would just add adjectives to Nightmare's name. So I tried to avoid that this time, but scrap and nightmare are always a classic way to go, okay? If there's gonna be a Halloween update for this game though, Scott, or I guess Steel Wool at this point, you need to add these. That would be fun. And 10, Glamrock Foxy. Speaking of not wanting to deal with additional lore, Glamrock Foxy would add a really unnecessary amount of just sheer annoyance to the game. At this point, Roxy is basically the love child of Foxy and Bonnie, and I say this every time. He even has a name that reflects the whole Foxy thing, okay? Since Roxy is just a combination of Rock and Foxy. I mean, like, I'm sure that's not intentional. Like, Roxy is an actual name that people have, but I figured that I'd mention it anyway because it's still like a combination of both words. And she plays the guitar, so there's a link to Bonnie. However, the main issue with this is just the fact that, like, Foxy is like a scarier Bonnie. I know all the die-hard Bonnie stans are gonna come for my balls or something in the comments, but like, hey, look, I get that Scott had nightmares about him, okay? But honestly, there's just no contest between these two characters. Bonnie isn't actually scary. Yet the Glamrock versions that I see for Foxy fit in well. And considering the Pyrite Easter egg that seemingly introduces another Foxy, I talk about that in the top 10 tiny details you missed in the FNAF Security Breach trailers video, we might very well get a special version of this OG animatronic. Or we might already have one running around and we just haven't seen him in the trailer. And at 9, Spider Ballora. Anyone who knows me knows I hate spiders. Big, small, poisonous, venomous, non-aggressive, any form of spider deserves to die, and if it's near me, hopefully it will. And while the Havoc puppet is messed up, if you know me, if you've watched any other fan videos, you'll know the Havoc puppet. The spider version of Ballora is literally called Spider Ballora, and I hate it with all my guts. While a couple of Nightmare Balloras have spider legs, this takes it to the next level. Her original form of crawling like a spider was already bad enough in my eyes, but now I have to deal with literally 3 eyes, 8 legs, a thorax, and 6 arms. What the hell? Man, why on God's green earth would you create this unholy monstrosity of a creature? Like, this is the kind of thing even Satan wouldn't approve of. When you die and you have to walk down the stairs to hell, Satan's gonna hide behind the gate and tell you to just keep walking. This is true horror, and I don't care what you think. You don't think it's scary? Good for you, but I'm not sleeping tonight. And with the introduction of the Music Man spider animatronic thing, whatever that unholy creation is, more spider animatronics, unfortunately, are now par for the course. And I don't want to deal with it. And at 8, Shadow Fredbear. Shadow Fredbear is almost perfectly intact, only burnt black in color, and he has a few rips on his body and is missing his left hand. The area around his mouth appears torn slightly as well, revealing a majority of his endoskeleton teeth, and his teeth and eyes glow, which makes it easier to see. Wonderful. Imagine if this animatronic had gums though. If he did, that would probably be the scariest thing on this list. But like, the absolute monstrosity that would have been created just by giving this character gums is, I don't want to talk about it. My genius is sometimes terrifying. But nonetheless, this is still creepy without gums, okay? Especially because this dude is like, he looks like the FNAF VR jump scare that's just like the glowing eyes or nose and mouth that are like glowing red. It's like that, okay? It's weird. This dude is powerful, and he replaces most of the other animatronics on Night 5 of Final Nights 2. However, with the connections that Gregory and the Crying Child seem to share, perhaps Shadow Fredbear would be a way to enhance that connection further. Or it could be a hallucination or a manifestation created by Glitchtrap in an effort to scare us into submission so he can be sacrificed or whatever the hell he wants from us. And it's 7, Fixed Springtrap or Scrap Trap. Fixed Scrap Trap doesn't sound scary at first, and then you see what some fans have done with this design, and then you crap your pants. The eyes for many of these versions is what makes it unsettling. The fact that everything on this animatronic looks put together and almost brand new, save for the fact that you can still kind of tell that there's someone in the suit, is off-putting. And someone who might not even really be doing well and is likely dead yeah. The contrast of the clean suit with the manic eyes of it, there's something very unhinged about this version. I'm getting the vibes for that, really. And including this in the game could serve as William's new body, because I'm pretty sure he will unfortunately be coming back despite my constant pleas to kill him off permanently, because for some reason everyone thinks we'll be able to redeem Vanny, which means that we'll need a villain, but I don't think so. I don't think there's any saving this bitch. And at 6, Twisted Funtime Freddy. While there are a plethora of twisted animatronics, both from the mind of Scott Cawthon and others, none are quite as terrifying as Twisted Funtime Freddy. Twisted Funtime Freddy combines the nightmare design of previous animatronics with basically everything else that you would find terrifying in an animatronic. Like, I don't know why the teeth have to be angled slightly outward, and like, I don't know what it is about this animatronic that makes it so much more terrifying than everything else, but it worked. It doesn't matter. Even if it's not pointed outward, I think the mixture of the visuals plus the thought of them also being able to move their face plates from being underground and still twisted but moving, it just, everything culminates in my brain and just causes panic. Like, it's like a sensory overload, but with FNAF, and honestly, that's what FNAF does to me nowadays. These are freaking nuts, and I don't know what it is about it. It's in essence a nightmare animatronic, but seems so much worse. Plus, it's a way to work in the different twisted animatronics into the game lore, including the canon ones and additional fan ones, maybe. Halfway through, in at number 5, FNAF AR. FNAF AR Special Delivery is certainly an interesting game, but the animatronics present in that game are even more interesting. With skins like Clown Springtrap and Arctic Ballora, it's always cool to see new takes on our favorite animatronics. Get it? Because she's Arctic. However, the cooler thing would be to see these animatronics in Security Breach. I mean, we've already seen some of them in the Furry's Rage video game, which saw us fighting waves of enemies throughout the Pizzaplex, so why not just put them in the main game? Especially some of the fan-made versions from that game, because those are way cooler than anything in the actual game itself, okay? It could help explain why the animatronics that should be dealt with are back, especially since it's an argument as to why any of these animatronics should actually be added, because it would mess with the lore of what we already know. See yesterday's list for me using that reason multiple times to explain why even some of these animatronics on this list shouldn't be added to the game. But hey, I'm all about contradicting myself, okay? It gets people talking in the comments. Speaking of which, who do you want to see in Security Breach? Who isn't like actually like confirmed? Like, don't say, oh, I'm looking forward to seeing no, don't do that. Who do you want to see in Security Breach who isn't confirmed yet? Let me know that you actually made it this far into the video by answering that question in the comments. In at 4, Ignited Freddy. This game could also serve as a link between game worlds if that's the plan. A breach in the security of the dimensional barrier, if you will. Scott would stretch a title like that, let's be honest. And Ignited Freddy is one of the main antagonists of the Joy of Creation fan game, which will have a new Ignited collection released as part of the Fazbear Fanverse initiative. In this game, you play as Scott Cawthon, whose creations have escaped from the game and are coming after you. Ignited Freddy appears to be a burnt and charred Freddy Fazbear animatronic. He has no bottom jaw, he's exposed his endoskeleton's bottom set of rusty teeth, his left ear is also missing. Ignited Freddy, he wears a top hat though. We love a classy gentleman, like his original counterpart. Both of his hands are also missing, along with the suit on his shins and his left forearm. He has no real eyes, only black holes with white pupils, but adding this to the game could serve as a way to connect the fanverse to the main universe and get fans excited for the fanverse initiative games in an interesting way. Getting close to the end, in at number 3, Nightmare Glam Rocks. Nightmare versions are designed to be the scariest versions of their respective animatronic, and you know what? I get it. That's why there are so many fan-made versions of him, because while elements like rugged exosuits and stomach mouths are common, you can only do so much with those. You can head anywhere else from your own imagination, same with scrap versions. However, these Nightmare versions are something else. Considering their pristine appearance in the trailers and promo images, well, with the exception of Chica, there is a stark contrast between these two versions. The normal Glam Rocks and the Nightmare Glam Rocks, jeez. There just seems to be the ultimate nightmare aesthetic going on with these characters specifically, even more so than like Twisted Funtime Freddy. I don't know why these animatronics specifically make me think that way, but maybe it's because like Glamrock Chica is my babe, but like now, even still. Glamrock Bonnie isn't even a thing yet, but their Nightmare Glamrock is, I still want it in the game. But with the amount of jackassery that comes from these FNAF games, I wouldn't doubt it if Scott just threw these in to make a more solid connection between Gregory and Crying Child. Either because it's canon or because he wants to mess with us. Because that's something he would do, especially when he's leaving and the person next to him, or the person after him, has to clean up his mess. And ultimately, in at number 2, Glamrock Puppet. Every time I make a list discussing creepy animatronics, every single time, without fail, a freaking puppet makes it on the list. That's mostly because the puppets are freaking terrifying, man. And I feel like the phone guy whenever I talk about it, but like, the puppet is creepy. And the Glamrock puppet is no exception. This character wasn't originated in the Fury's Rage game like I figured. Yes, I actually called it by its proper name this time. But instead, it's just a separate design. Just no matter what, it just looks like it wants to bring me to the back of the pizza joint to show me where it puts the salami. I don't mean literally, but like, you get what I mean. And not only does it come with its own creepy concept art, but it also comes with Minecraft skins, because of course it does. This is one of the weirdest versions of the puppet, not taking into account Scrap Puppet, Wither Puppet, or Reaper Puppet from Final Nights 3. Yet this design, it also still fits into Security Breach, and considering how we got a version in Fury's Rage, maybe we should get a version in the full game. Hopefully it doesn't float though. And finally, in at number 1, Glamrock Bonnie. I think the freakiest part about Glamrock Bonnie is the fact that they're not going to be in the game. So as far as I can tell, the only mention of Bonnie will be in the bowling alley that we probably aren't really gonna get to use, but for the most part, like with the rest of the animatronics, these designs aren't really scary, well aside from the Minecraft model. What's with people and making Minecraft animations for all these FNAF characters? The game hasn't even come out yet. Freaking Glamrock Puppet, freaking Glamrock Bonnie, just chill out. Either way, these versions, aside from one from a Twitter user called Manute Art, aren't really all that menacing, but the idea that people are creating additional animatronics is scary enough to me, because I don't want to deal with the additional lore that would come from that. But these designs are incredible, so maybe I could deal with it if it's just like one of these versions that was included in the game. Just make sure that it's like one of the first few you see, okay Scott? Don't scroll down too much, trust me, it's not worth it. And at 10, the puppet. I think I might have said this phrase more than any other saying in this goddamn world, but the puppet creeps me the hell out. Any form of the puppet is creepy as well. Like I don't even have a fear of dolls, which I believe is called pediophobia. Either way, the puppet is one of the creepiest, creepy ass characters that I know of. And honestly, after seeing how it walks in FNAF VR, I don't want to see it running around the Pizzaplex, because that's some horrifically terrifying that I don't want to deal with. Not only that, but the puppet is supposed to be dealt with after FNAF 6. And if this game does take place after FNAF 6, like the appearance of Helpy in the first trailer suggests, the puppet has no business being in this game. So if it does show up, there are going to be some real issues with not only the timeline placement, but also like the lore, because I wouldn't understand what's going on at that point. I know that there's like those like little like nightmare puppet things, but like those are more like mini arenas, so... And at 9, the Stitch Wraith. Now don't get me wrong, a Stitch Wraith appearance would be insane and would give us a canon version of the character. Well, a canon kind of like appearance. However, the amount of crap that this would mess up is beyond comprehension. The sheer lore implications this one thing would reveal just sends shivers down my spine. That would confirm every Fazbear Frights book in the main canon of the game. And it would also confirm them mostly as written, which would screw up the whole "it's a matter of interpretation" thing that we currently got going on, saying that like, oh yeah, Andrew from The Man in Room 1280 is just representative of this. That we couldn't say that anymore. Plus, I mean, from what we know of the story, it doesn't fit in properly whatsoever. This would be one of the weirdest ways to absolutely destroy the story of all the games. Like, the Stitch Wraith has no sway in the story that we currently know for Security Breach. Don't get me wrong, the narrative we've been told could be a total lie and a giant misdirect, but come on. Currently, if the Stitch Wraith shows up, I'm gonna be mad. And it ain't the OGs. The original animatronics are definitely some of the most iconic from the series, the most iconic being Toy Chica, obviously. However, the OGs appearing in Security Breach would be much like if the puppet had appeared. It, at this point, would have already been dealt with. The Happiest Day minigame set their souls free, and then their remnant was taken care of in FNAF 6's Fire after Ennard as Molten Freddy got destroyed. At least if the games follow the novel story of the original animatronics remnant getting used in the Funtime animatronics. But even if they didn't, their souls were released in the Happiest Day minigame. That was the whole point of that minigame. So if the original animatronics show up, I'm going to be very confused. This whole timeline is very messy to begin with, so like we can use this as a way to sort everything out going forward. Like how I've been saying with the other two, these would just throw a wrench into everything that we've come to understand. And while this is par for the course for FNAF, I don't want to deal with it. And at 7, Bonnie. Now I'm calling out Bonnie specifically because honestly having any form of Bonnie animatronic in this game would be kind of pointless at this point. Bonnie has been largely removed from the game for currently unknown reasons, however introducing a glam rock Bonnie or something would kinda come out of nowhere and it's not really worth it. Bonnie sure is a fun animatronic, but the lack of a Bonnie animatronic could be serving as a way to demonstrate that Scott is moving on from the series after this game, since we all know that he believes Bonnie is the scariest given that he had nightmares about the character while playtesting FNAF 1. So Bonnie not being included is kind of symbolic in a way, and I'm sure it didn't start off this way unless Scott had been planning his retirement for a while, but to include a Bonnie now would probably cheapen the game, especially because it's not really that big of a reveal. It's not going to be like Cap holding Mjolnir or if there are really 3 Spider-Men in No Way Home, so it would just kind of be annoying for me. And at 6, Springlock Suits. With this game seemingly being as far away from the first FNAF game as can be, it's been ages since Fredbear's Family Diner, so the Springlock Suits which would appear at this location would be an absolutely horrible idea to include in this game. The timeline placement is already finicky enough, but including animatronics that would have been decommissioned for decades would definitely confuse everyone. Especially me, because I'm one for choosing the most complicated and unlikely scenario and then believing it so much that I dedicate a whole theory video to it and then everyone gets mad at me in the comments. But if we see the Springlock Suits that were both destroyed for, well, kinda obvious reasons, I think it would be safe to say that it's a bad idea to have them make an appearance, unless it's like in a form of like an Easter egg in a museum display or something similar. Halfway through into number 5, Vanny. Now I know that currently all we know about Vanny is that she's being controlled by Glitch Trap and that she's supposedly supposed to be the security guard Vanessa as well, but there were so many people accusing Vanny of being a robot in the early days of the trailers. Now don't get me wrong, but if that happens I'm going to jump off a building and everyone has to watch. Turning Vanny into an animatronic would probably take away from the story of this game so much, and honestly that would just make another game with Afton as the villain, which I'm sure plenty of people are fine with, but I think we all know that I'm firmly against Afton being brought back yet again. Since if we're moving forward, I don't want to have to deal with more Afton. He's like the link to the confusing and mind-numbing timeline, and honestly it just makes me dizzy to think about it. He's like the ex that won't let go. He just like, let us move on, please, Afton. Stop calling me. And at 4, Scrap Animatronics. The Scrap Animatronics are some of the most recent additions to the FNAF roster, being included in FNAF 6 and Scrap Baby being featured as a plushie in FNAF VR. The Scrap Animatronics were simply to allow for the story of the original group of victims to wrap up so we could move on with what comes next. So reintroducing them, aside from maybe an Easter egg, would be a huge conflict, especially with, again, the timeline, since this was supposed to take place after FNAF VR and AR, but FNAF AR's emails have the dates at which you actually receive them IRL, and FNAF VR is supposed to be the company trying to rebuild its rep after years after the final FNAF 6 fire, at least 4 years from my estimate in the timeline breakdown video I did. But with the reintroduction of these characters, it would have to take place sometime, at least at the same time if not earlier. But it also can't be too much earlier, since that would conflict with even more things. Do you see the issues I'm having here? Plus, they're just they're terrifying, and I don't want to deal with them again. Getting close to the end, in at number 3, nightmares. The nightmare animatronics better not show up in this game. In addition to the whole timeline issue as well as the story issue, these animatronics specifically are supposed to be illusions, created in a child's head as his mind processes that he's in the hospital dying from being bit by Fredbear. The whole point of these animatronics is that they weren't real animatronics. Yet, if they end up appearing, like someone seemed to point out to me on Twitter, since the arm from the end of the very first trailer looks like Nightmare Freddy's arm, we're gonna be in for a treat. And by treat, I mean me freaking out and going absolutely bananas, because that would be the icing on top of the crap cake, from my perspective, honestly. Plus, like I said, this would cause a whole kerfuffle, and it would mean that Afton is probably gonna come back. If they can find a reason to make imaginary animatronics real, and it's not just like in like a video game in universe or in William's mind, they would find a reason to bring William back yet again. And there would be nothing I could do about it. It would drive me insane. But ultimately, in at number 2, Springer Scrap Trap. I know I already mentioned the spring lock suits and scrap animatronics before, but I just wanted to reiterate that I don't want to see William in this game. Unless it is in the form of Glitch Trap, because that would be unavoidable if this is really the story. But Spring Trap or Scrap Trap aren't good ideas, since again they should have been destroyed and William now exists as sentient code. So any physical manifestations of the character would have to be illusions if we get possessed or some hallucination. Although I don't know how Gregory would know what either version looked like, considering how, you know, he's a kid. But like, I don't know, maybe that's why Special Delivery includes Scrap Trap though, because that's the way that Gregory could understand what he looks like and able to actually hallucinate him if we do end up getting possessed by William and then he starts driving us crazy. Damn, now I like the way that this is going. Hallucinations aside, an actual real version of this character it would make me mad, okay? It's a pretty simple request. This isn't No Way Home. We don't need a multiverse and like time travel from like different aspects of the FNAF universe, okay? We don't need it. No matter how excited I am for No Way Home, we don't need it in FNAF. And finally, in number 1, Music Man Spider. Music Man was already a pretty creepy dude, okay? He feels like that uncle that's always standing around at like family reunions when those were legal, and he's just chilling out in the corner, drinking. Yeah. Music Man just chills behind you in Ultimate Custom Night, and then just like the old neighbors, he tells you to keep the racket down, resulting in a jump scare if you make or cause too much noise. However, here comes FNAF 9 with some goddamn arachnophobia, fear hallucination or something like that, because Music Man now has 6 legs and is absolutely gigantic. Yeah, this got real interesting real fast, and editor, I'm sorry that I'm swearing, but this makes me mad. Considering how I'm arachnophobic, I really hate this guy. But those who are arachnophobic and robophobic are going to find these sections of the game absolutely unplayable. So have fun with that. At least I'm not scared of robots, I'm scared of spiders. And I mean, like, I feel like I should be scared of spider robots, but they're not actual spiders. So I mean, like, apples and oranges. And while yes, this guy is actually in Security Breach and like he's being created for Security Breach, I put him on this list because I don't want to see him in the game. This will cause me to breach the security of my pants.